The sky inside the pocket dimension never changed. The blue sun hovered above like a frozen tear. The stars didn't twinkle, they were stuck, lifeless and fake. And below that still sky, Lynn sat inside a cracked glass dome, brushing her hair, with the same old comb she had used for over 300 years. She didn't look 300. She still looked like the girl who had begged not to be left behind. Her name was Lynn, and the last real sound she remembered was a boy's voice saying, "Just a few weeks. I'll come back for you." That promise had broken her heart, and now it was dust. Lynn pressed her fingers against the dome's glass. "Oren," she whispered. A robot's torso creaked as it turned to her. Most of its armor had peeled away. Vines crawled through its chest, like nature had taken over its circuits. One eye blinked red, barely working. "Did you say something?" Lynn asked. The robot's voice cracked. "Negative. No signal detected." "Perhaps another dream." Lynn sighed. "Oren, how long has it been?" 312 years, 5 months, and 6 days. The robot replied. That number never made sense in her head. She didn't feel it. Her skin hadn't aged. Her heart still beat like it did when she was 17. But inside, she felt ancient, forgotten by the world, forgotten by time. Suddenly, something changed. It wasn't the usual static or whispers in her sleep. This was sharp, real. A silver line ripped through the air like a blade cutting the sky. The protective dome tried to darken, but it failed. The dimension itself was breaking. 2 figures stepped through the glowing tear. They looked human, but they weren't. Their bodies were too tall, too smooth, and they wore suits that shimmered like lightning, trapped in cloth. One tilted his head. "Residual energy," he said. "No," the other replied. "She's alive." "Wait," Lynn screamed. "Don't go. Take me with you." The taller one turned toward her. His mask was smooth and his voice cold. "Do you know how long you've been in here?" 312 years. The shorter figure gave a low whistle. "This dimension was declared collapsed over a century ago. She's not supposed to exist." "I don't care," Lynn cried. "Just don't leave me." They hesitated. The taller one spoke again. "Extraction will hurt." "I don't care," she said. "Do it." The pain was like being burned by ice. Her body screamed. Her memories broke into pieces. When she opened her eyes, she was in a white room, clean and cold, smelling like machines. They told her nothing, just that she wasn't supposed to be alive. That someone would come explain. But nobody did. She wasn't in a home or a hospital. She was in a holding station. On the wall, a screen showed a city in the sky, golden towers floating above clouds. Lynn hated it. It felt fake. It didn't belong to her. Her world had collapsed, and she had no place here. For 3 days, she didn't speak. She barely ate. The silence made her feel like she was still trapped in that broken dome. Then, on the 3rd day, someone knocked. A boy walked in with a tray of food. He had freckles like stars and wore his dark hair in half-tied braids. He smiled like he didn't care about rules. "You're Lynn, right?" She nodded. "I brought real food. Well, not synthetic soup at least." He laughed a little. She stared. "Why do you care?" He shrugged and sat beside her. "I don't know. I just felt like someone needed to." "What's your name?" she asked, voice cracked and dry. 10, he said. Short for something no one remembers. Lynn didn't trust him. But he came back the next day, and the next he brought stories, some about stars falling in love, some about time music, some clearly lies. But he made her laugh. That mattered more. Then one day, everything changed again. People began staring at her in the halls. Some whispered behind her back. One woman even spit near her feet and hissed something in a strange tongue before running away. "On," she asked 10. He looked nervous. "You're not in the archive." "What does that mean?" "You're not in any timeline. Not in the birth logs. Not in the memory chains. You're a hole in history." "I'm still here." "That's what's terrifying," he whispered. That night, she kissed him. It wasn't planned. He was talking again about galaxies being lonely. About stars dancing in pairs before gravity pulled them apart. He sounded so sad. So honest. She leaned forward, touched his face, and kissed him, and time screamed. The lights exploded. The walls flickered. Sirens howled. Across galaxies, timelines twisted in old ruins. People suddenly remembered her name. In dream records, her face appeared. Soldiers fell to their knees, crying out for a girl they never met but somehow loved. In other places, leaders whispered her name like a curse. "Lynn," she pulled back from 10, her body shaking. "What just happened?" she gasped. He whispered. staring at her in awe. You're the keystone. What does that mean? You weren't supposed to be saved, but you were. And now history is changing around you. Lynn backed away. I didn't ask for this. No, but it's happening. She tried to run. She tried to hide. But everywhere she went, the world shifted. Buildings changed. People remembered events that never happened. Wars vanished. Peace deals appeared. Her very presence was rewriting time. They told her to stay quiet. That her rescue had broken a law deeper than physics. But she couldn't hide anymore. On a distant moon, an archivist named Nero woke to find his crystal library rearranged. The name Lynn whispered through his memory chambers. Her face appeared in forgotten dreams. She didn't exist, but now she was everywhere. At the same time, a woman named Cassia arrived at his door. Her eyes were old and wet with too many years. You've felt it too, she asked. Yes, Nero said. She's rewriting everything. I remember her, Cassia said. Even after my timeline was erased. Together, they stared at the time lattice, a glowing web of all history. Lynn's name blinked in places it never had before. Her kiss had triggered ripple waves, not of destruction, but of possibility. And the enforcers had noticed they were coming. Because the universe could handle war, chaos, death, but not change from something as human as love. And Lynn had kissed someone, and history would never be the same again. The petals floated across the sky like memories trying to take shape. In the middle of a glowing city built on a flower-shaped space station called Orangsho, Lynn sat under a tree that hadn't existed the day before. She held Ten's hand gently, her head resting on his shoulder. All around them, time was folding, curling, trying to understand her. Ten had fallen asleep. Lynn stared at the sky, unsure if the stars were real. Maybe they were just more lies. Maybe everything was. But she was real. Her heart beat. Her fingers shook. Her memories bled into places she didn't belong. The first enforcer appeared as a shadow across the tree's branches. It didn't speak. Its white cloak didn't move with wind. It moved with time itself. The mask on its face looked like silver glass. It stepped forward slowly, each footstep rewriting the grass beneath it into something colder, artificial. Lynn didn't run. She just whispered, "It's you, isn't it?" The enforcer didn't answer. It raised one hand, and a ripple of white light spread out like waves on water. 10 woke Lynn. "Stay back," she said softly. "They want to erase me again." "But why?" 10 stood up, fists clenched. "She's not hurting anyone." The enforcer paused. It tilted its head. Then a voice came not from its mouth, but from the air itself. She broke the weave. She changed the pattern. She was meant to be forgotten. But she wasn't. Another voice said, from behind the trees. Two people stepped into view. Nero. And Cassia. Nero's eyes were wide with fear. But he stood tall, holding a glowing memory crystal like a shield. Cassia's boots were dusty, her sleeves torn, and her expression was cold fury. "You don't get to decide who matters," she said. The enforcer didn't move. "She is an anomaly. So are all of us," Cassia shouted. "You erased my world. I still remember. Just like she does." Nero whispered to Lynn. "The timelines are still folding. If you let them touch you, they'll close the loop." "What does that mean?" Lynn asked. "You'll vanish again, forever. Maybe. Worse. Maybe you'll become someone else. Something else." 10 stepped forward. "Then we won't let it touch her." But the enforcer began to glow. Light poured from its mask, from its chest, from the space around it. The sky above darkened, like paper catching fire. Cassia grabbed Lynn's hand. "You can fight it." "How?" Lynn asked. "I'm just a girl." Cassia shook her head. "You're not just anything. You're a keystone. You hold pieces together that should fall apart. That's why they fear you." "Then help me," Lynn said. And she stepped forward. The enforcer raised its arm again. A beam of white light shot toward her. But it bent, turned, curved, like it had touched something stronger. Lynn wasn't glowing, but the world around her was. The tree, the bench, the grass. Even the stars blinked differently. "You're not supposed to exist." The enforcer's voice trembled. "I didn't ask to exist," she said. "But I'm here," and she kissed 10 again. Time didn't scream, it exploded. All across Orangsho, memories shifted. A bakery in Sector 4 turned into a music hall. Statues melted into new forms. Entire rooms disappeared and came back with different colors, different smells. People forgot wars they had once fought, and now remembered weddings they never had. One woman sobbed in the street, holding a photo of a child she'd never given birth to until now. Nero dropped to his knees as the memory crystals around him started to float, orbiting him like fireflies. She's rewriting the archive. Cassia held her breath. The enforcer stepped back. It was afraid, then it vanished. Not in flames, not in a scream, just vanished. As if it was never supposed to be there. Or maybe, as if time had decided Lynn mattered more. When silence returned, Lynn fell to her knees. I didn't mean to hurt anyone, she said. Ten hugged her. You didn't. You saved us. Cassia sat beside her. You created possibilities. You gave back what was taken. But what now? Lynn asked. Will they come again? Nero looked up at the new stars. Maybe, but the weave's been changed. You're not a void anymore. You're written into everything now. Ten helped her up. We'll protect you. Together. Lynn nodded slowly. She looked around at the people gathering, staring at her not with fear but with recognition. Some had tears in their eyes. Some smiled. One small child ran up and handed her a flower. You're the girl from my dreams, she said. Lynn knelt. What's your name? Hannah, the girl whispered. Lynn hugged her. Her heart didn't feel heavy anymore. Later, in the new library, Nero rebuilt on Orang shore. Cassia opened a drawer and pulled out an old data slate. It had only one line written. Lynn was never supposed to wake. She handed it to Nero. Should we delete this? Nero smiled faintly. No, we archive it. Because now she did. Time began to settle. But it didn't close. Lynn and Ten moved into a quiet dome on the edge of the station, near the lotus leaves that shimmered in the starlight. They planted trees. They wrote stories. They kissed without fear. Sometimes, people came from across the galaxy to see the girl who changed time. Some came for answers. Some for hope. Lynn didn't always know what to say, but she always listened. And one day, years later, a strange traveler arrived. He wore a patchwork cloak and had no face, just a screen showing stars. He said he came from the outer verge, a place that only existed in unstable time pockets. He asked her one question. Did you mean to change everything? Lynn looked at Ten, then back at the traveler. No, she said. I only meant to be remembered. The traveler smiled. Then you've done more than most. And he disappeared in a burst of petals, in the deepest corners of the time lattice. Something new began to grow. A thread that didn't belong to the past or the future. It belonged to a girl. Once abandoned, now eternal. Now written into time. Lynn, the girl who was forgotten and remembered again.